All right, so the topic of today's lecture is spiritual inquiry and human growth. So I'll start by explaining a little bit about what Vedanta is. Okay, so this is very much, everything we're going to cover today is very much an introduction to the philosophy of Vedanta. Any one of the slides that we're going to see here today, we could spend another hour on explaining further and getting more into it. So it's more of an introduction. So first of all, what is Vedanta? Vedanta is a philosophy. One of the most common questions we get asked when we're talking about this is it a religion? Is Vedanta a religion? Short answer is no. The long answer is also no, but with a lot more explanation behind it. So you're only getting the short answer today. It's a philosophy. So the word Vedanta we'll get into in a moment, but essentially what it is, it's a subject of science. So think of it this way, what is science in general? Inquiry. Beautiful. So science is a method of inquiry so that we can make the unknown known. So when we talk about an objective science, we're talking about things that are there in the objective world. So what do we mean by this? Okay, let me take a step back and we'll explain the bottom half of this slide. Your life, everybody's life, my life, is a stream of experiences. An experience arises when a subject meets an object. What do we mean by this? You are the subject and the world is the object. Right at this moment, your world is this building, my voice, the air conditioning temperature, the food in your belly, the emotions in your mind, the thoughts in your intellect. This is your world. Who is the one who is interacting with that? It's you, the subject. Every time you meet the world, an experience is born. So then an object of science seeks to inquire into the object. So when, for example, you are inquiring into the nature of physical matter, we call that physics. If you're inquiring into the nature of biological systems, we call it biology. Political systems, we call it political science. It's a method of inquiry into the world, the thing that you contact to give rise to your experiences. Vedanta is also a method of inquiry, but this time the field of inquiry or the domain of questioning is the subject, me, the individual who contacts the world. And as with any science, when you understand the principles that govern, say, physics, the physical world, you can exploit that understanding and improve the nature of your existence. We have air conditioning units and mobile phones and aeroplanes and cars and everything else. We've improved our life because we understand the laws of physics. When you understand the laws that govern the subject of experience, you can similarly exploit that knowledge to go where you want to go. This is what Vedanta is for. So the word Vedanta is made up of two Sanskrit phrases, Veda and Anta. The word Veda means knowledge, the word Anta means end. What that means then is that Vedanta is talking about the end of knowledge, the culmination of all human knowledge. This seems to be something of a contradiction or a paradox or unexpected. Why? There's no end to knowledge. Any time that you gain more knowledge on a subject, all that tells you, all that shows you is a new boundary of stuff that you don't know. And yet here we are saying Vedanta is the culmination of human knowledge. So what do we mean by that? Okay, so to answer that question, what do we mean by the culmination of human knowledge? Ask the question, what are you trying to achieve? What do you want? Peace, happiness, satisfaction, well-being. So let's put it in these terms, that everything that we're doing is for a sense of well-being. Okay, you come to a service because you believe it will bring you a sense of well-being. You get married because you believe it will improve your life. You get divorced for the exact same reason. Okay, so everything we're doing, whether it's a short-term or a long-term project, it's because we believe that this will enhance my well-being. So that's what we're looking for. Every activity we're engaged in is for that sense of well-being. But it's not just well-being, is it? We want permanent, unbroken well-being. It's not that we get the well-being now and we enjoy it, and then when the well-being goes away, we say, it doesn't matter. I've had well-being before, I don't need to have it again. It never happens that way. It's not like watching a movie. I've seen that movie, I don't need to see it a second time. I've had well-being, I've had satisfaction, I've had happiness. It's gone now, but it's okay. So we don't just want well-being, we want permanent, unbroken satisfaction. Not too much to ask. So what we're going to describe then, or one of the basic premises of this philosophy, is that that sense of independent well-being is commensurate with our spiritual growth. As we grow spiritually, our sense of well-being becomes enhanced and more independent. So, keep on questioning. What do we mean by spiritual growth? So, we need to find a common language. We need to find a common description to work with. All of these will be correct in one way or another, but if we have 100 different definitions, then we can find ourselves moving in different directions. So for the purposes of discussion, next, let's look at spiritual growth as the reduction of ego and egocentric desires. This is one of the ways that we can describe what spiritual growth is. As we grow spiritually, what that means is that the egocentric desires within the personality are slowly dissolving and degrading away. What's left in its path is the effects of spiritual growth, which are autonomy and empathy, which we'll get onto in the next slide. But before I touch on that, I just want to touch on this word ego. So the word ego has 100 different meanings to 100 different people, depending upon your tradition or your area of study or that sort of thing. For the purposes of discussion here, one of the ways we can understand ego is an exaggerated sense of emphasis on oneself to the exclusion of others. This is another way of saying selfishness. A selfish person only considers his or her own interests and completely forgets that there are interests outside of me. So that means I can, as long as I'm making all the money that I want to make, it doesn't matter that I am putting others at financial risk. Doesn't matter that I'm polluting our environment. Doesn't matter that I'm breaking moral or legal barriers to make that money. I don't consider anything outside of my own immediate interests. This is the ego. This is selfishness. So the role of spirituality in life then is to degrade selfishness. And it culminates in what we call self-realization, which is the complete eradication of ego, which is an entirely separate discussion. Next.